Hello, everybody. On we go in the Book of Enoch. And for me, everything's been really easy up to this point. It harmonizes so well with the Bible. But here we have the book of the courses of the heavenly luminaries. And things start to get a little more interesting here. We'll put it like that. So, this is the layout of the firmaments. This is the layout of the astrology of heaven, according to Enoch. And what is it based on? Okay, well, let me go again to 2 Corinthians in the New Testament. 2 Corinthians in the New Testament. Okay. Is everybody there? Because this is what it's all based on. All right? This is what it's based on here, folks. And I remember it's been a long time of asking people. I'd read these 4 verses and I'd say, what is that? And nobody knew. Okay? But we know. We know. And you know. And if you don't, you will know. Here we are in chapter 12 in Corinthians, and we got to remember one thing. There's 12 months in a year, right? The sun enters each phase on the circle of the earth on the 30th degree and leaves on the 33rd degree, according to all the layouts of all the astrologists, all the people in setting your astrology, see? And all that was based on flat earth, period. I don't care who it is. And today, even the people that are into the occult, the low levels, don't realize that, because they're getting duped by their masters. They really are. But the bottom line is, you just read Manly P. Hall. He explains it thoroughly, goes into all the old mystery school doctrines, and the north is the center of the earth, and it's like a big 12 pieces of pie. And here we are. And which chapter are we? Chapter 12. Okay, and that's what all, you're a Sagittarius. That's because the sun enters the upper section and leaves on the 30th degree, or leaves on the 33rd degree. It's the 33rd degree is where you change your segment. So you're a Sagittarius, and you move on. The next section is something else when you're born, see? And all that has to do with the old map and the old astrology that goes back to Babylon. And believe me, Babylon is not stupid, or we would not be going through kicking the Hebrew calendar out here in America and using the Roman calendar, and the Roman calendar is the Babylonian calendar. Now, how could these people knew astrology because they worshiped the heavenlies. Now, we're taught we love God's work, but we worship God. We don't worship his handiwork. Well, these people worship the sun and the moon and the stars. You see what I'm saying? And they have been duped by their masters, because Pythagoras, back in Egypt, way back there, thousands of years ago, folks, he did the doctrine of atoms. The doctrine of atoms? You're talking about 2,500 years ago? And Pythagoras wrote the doctrine of atoms. And I had it in a literature class even, back at OU 30 years ago. The doctrine of atoms. Now, that's where the round earth model came. And if you notice, all the witches and everything have that round earth model, and the etc. So, but here we go. I want to read this section in chapter 12 in 2 Corinthians. it is not expedient for me, doubtless to glory. That's because everyone's accusing him of trying to glorify himself, which Paul was not. I will come to visions and revelations of the Lord. Now, what's he telling you? This is from the Lord. A revelation given to Paul through the Holy Ghost, the man knocked out of his chariot, the one responsible for taking the doctrine to the Gentiles. And this is a revelation of the Lord. And in 2, he says, and I knew a man in Christ above 14 years ago. And he can't tell whether and I'm added that he can't tell, whether in the body, that's the Bible, I cannot tell, or whether out of the body I cannot tell. God knoweth, such a one, caught up to the third heaven. Okay, what's the third heaven, folks? Well, let's read on. Because here he's saying this person, whoever he's not naming here, was caught up to the third heaven. In 3 it says, and I knew such a man, whether in the body or out of the body, I cannot tell, God knoweth. All right? So was this person angelic, or was he something else? Was he transported up there in the body, or was he taken up there in spirit? He can't tell. Okay, but here's the answer to the question, what is the third heaven? In 4, how that he was caught up into paradise, capital P, and heard unspeakable words which it is not lawful, that's God's law, for man to utter. In other words, he heard things that he's not going to give to us up there. Now that is based on the old map prior to all the occultists. And it didn't come out. It didn't come out, years and years. No one ever said that. No one ever said that. But in the 1500s, all of a sudden we have an occultist. And he's famous for writing occult doctrines. Isn't that something? He's a Rosicrucian. Isn't that something? And he wrote all these occult doctrines, and he's famous for them. His name is Galileo. But wait, as we look back at all the old pictures and paintings and statues, we see the round earth model all the way back. So when challenged by that, when you go to the astrologers and you say, hey, what about all these old round earths, like the popes holding them, kings holding them? Way back before Galileo, they say, well, it's true. Galileo really didn't discover that. Isn't that something? You mean he wasn't locked up for saying the earth was round? Oh, you mean Columbus didn't sail the ocean blue in 1942 or whatever it is, that little jingle, and we're taught that in school? See, there's your... Now you admit that it's not true, that it came from the Egyptian mystery school. Isn't that something? But this map I have here in my possession came from a political scientist that took it directly from the paintings, the statuary from Babylon. And this is the North Star, paradise. It shows the underworld and shows 3 distinct heavens, and the top of that being the throne of God. Now that's what Paul's saying here. Check me out. Hey, man, if you're doubting what I'm saying, you go ahead and check me out. Please check me out. They're going to have a million excuses that don't add up. I'm telling you that. NASA's lying. So believe Enoch or not. Okay, it's still there's, even if you deny this, you can't believe NASA, folks. I'm telling you that. How could you believe someone that's been lying for thousands of years? Either Galileo started it or he didn't. The story was, now this came right in high school. in history class that he went blind from looking through a telescope so much. Okay, now, if all that's true, why the Persians, Babylonians, they're two twin sisters, are they not? Was not the Persians there married in the Medo-Persian Empire? They invented the telescope in modern times here. So, that being said, before we poo-poo what is being said here in the book of the courses of the heavenly luminaries, we got to look at what the Apostle Paul was saying here. And he was just making this was no argument back then. This was no argument back then. Paul just plainly said this, the third heaven. And that's right here in this old, thousands of years old sketch of the firmaments of the earth. And besides that, I want to know, what year did they go through the Van Allen radiation belt? And how did they do that? Okay? The big tent that the Lord gave for us to dwell under. Not only the human beings, but all creatures. All right, now I know some people are going to turn me right off, but I'm begging you not to do that. I'm begging you to listen to what we're talking about and to really question what you've been told. Either Galileo invented this round earth model or he didn't. You can't say now in 2023 and admit when you're on the spot, when it's shown to you this old Egyptian round earth and the doctrine of atoms, that's thousands of years old. I thought the modern scientists discovered that. Isn't that something? Hey, those pieces of that puzzle ain't put together, but let's see what we can do. And this is not my area of expertise here, but I got some people, these engineers, they're going to start putting some of these charts together, because this ain't exactly, prophecy is my strong point. But here, we got some real live studiers, and they are going to make a chart of all this, okay? So let's look at it. And I may be a fish out of water in parts of this, but we'll learn together then, folks. How do you like that? So this is chapter 72, and it's what? The book of the courses of the heavenly luminaries, and 72 is what? Another Septuagint. Sacred number. If you add it up there at the end of Ezekiel, 72,000 square furlongs, as high as it is wide. Okay, the book of the courses of the luminaries of heaven, the relations of each according to their classes, their dominion and their seasons, according to their names and places of origin, and according to their months, which Uriel, the holy angel, who was with me, who is their guide, showed me. And he showed me all their laws, exactly as they are, and how it is with regard to all the years of the world, and unto eternity, till the new creation. See, that's what we're looking for. That's the New Jerusalem, folks, is accomplished, which dureth till eternity. Yeah. So far, that's harmonizing with our Bible and all the rest of the doctrine. And this is the first law of the luminaries. The luminary, the sun, has its rising in the eastern portholes of the heaven, and its setting in the western portholes of the heaven. Well, we're not going to deny that, are we, folks? And I saw 6 portals in which the sun rises, and 6 portholes in which the sun sets. And the moon rises and sets in these portals. And the leaders of the stars and those whom they lead, 6 in the east and 6 in the west, and all following each other in accuracy, corresponding order. Also many windows to the right and left of these portals. And that's absolutely true so far. Okay? These things go clockwise, all of them, from the east to the west. Now, in these occult societies, these secret societies, when they try to identify each other, they ask, "Are you a traveling man?" You say, "Yes." And they say, "Where are you traveling to?" And they say, "From the west to the east." See, counterclockwise. And witches, when they get in their circle, they love to go counterclockwise. Okay, against the stars, see. They want to go against the sons of God, don't they? All right, so when the witches get in their hand circle, and they circle, they're going over the astrology. Whether or not they know that, it doesn't matter. That's what it represents in the occult. In 4 it says, "And first there goes forth the great luminary, named the sun, and his circumference," see, that's a circle, "is like the circumference of the heaven." That's a circle. "And he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire." 5, it says, "The chariot on which he ascends, the wind drives, and the sun goes down from the heaven and returns through the north in order to reach the east, and is so guided that he comes to the appropriate," and this is from the translator literal, "that porthole, and shines in the face of the heaven. In this way he rises in the first month in the great portal, which is the 4th, those 6 portholes in the east. 7, and in that 4th porthole from which the sun rises in the first month are 12 window openings." Got that? 12 months. "From which proceed a flame when they are opened in their season. When the sun rises in the heaven, he comes forth through that 4th porthole 30 mornings in succession, and sets accurately in the 4th porthole in the west of the heaven. And during this period the day becomes daily longer, and the night nightly shorter to the 30th morning. On that day the day is longer than the night by a 9th part, and the day amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. See, now right there I'm a fish out of water. I have never diagrammed such a thing, all right? So I'm what? I'm reserving judgment. I'm going to keep my mind open. I'm just going to keep looking. I'm going to keep trying to grow and look at these things. And the first thing, if I see something that's false, I'm gonna speak up with reservations, because in the past I've found things that I thought I was right or wrong about, and then had to back shuffle. I had to say, "Hey, wait a minute, I was wrong," or, "You know what, I was really right." It came through reading the doctrine. Okay, so I reserve judgment. I don't have to make up my mind right here, right now on that. It's you make a theory and you test that theory to see whether it's right or wrong. If it holds up under the testing, the theory is looking good. If it doesn't, it's bad. Okay? Anyway, so let's do some more testing and looking here. In 11 it says, "And the sun rises from that 4th portal, and sets in the 4th, and returns to the 5th portal of the east 30 mornings, and rises from it and sets in the 5th portal. 12. And then the day becomes longer by 2 parts and amounts to 11 parts, and the night becomes shorter and amounts to 7 parts. Okay, 13. And it returns to the east and enters into the 6th portal and rises and sets in the 6th porthole 1 and 30 mornings on account of its sign. Okay, so there's the signs of what? It's kind of like the sign of the zodiac, isn't it? Isn't that what is being said here, table people? Because of its sign. So there's its particular sign. On the 14th verse, it says, on that day, the day becomes longer than the night, and the day becomes double the night, and the day becomes 12 parts, and the night is shortened and becomes 6 parts. In 15, and the sun mounts up to make the day shorter and the night longer, and the sun returns to the east and enters into the 6th portal and rises from it and sets 30 mornings. So notice here how the sun is on the move. Now that I know. The sun's on the move. It goes along with the whole 77 books. The sun is always on the move. In 16, and when 30 mornings are accomplished, the day decreases by exactly 1 part and becomes 11 parts, and the night 7. And the sun goes forth from that 6th portal in the west and goes to the east and rises in the 5th portal for 30 mornings and sets in the west again in the 5th western portal. 18. On that day, the day decreases by 2 parts and amounts to 10 parts, and the night to 8 parts. 19. And the sun goes forth from that 5th portal and sets in the 5th portal of the west and rises in the 4th portal for 1 and 30 mornings on account of its sign, and sets in the west. On that day, the day is equal with the night and becomes of equal length, and the night amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts. 21. And the sun rises from that portal and sets in the west and returns to the east and rises 30 mornings in the 3rd portal and sets in the west in the 3rd portal. 22. And on that day the night becomes longer than the day, and night becomes longer than night, and day shorter than day till the 13th morning. And the night amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the day to 8 parts. Okay, and 22. And on that day the night becomes longer than the day, and night becomes longer than night, and day shorter than day till the 30th morning, and the night amounts exactly to 10 parts, and the day to 8 parts. 23. And the sun rises from that 3rd portal and sets in the 3rd portal in the west and returns to the east, and for 30 mornings rises in the 2nd portal in the east, and in the manner sets in the 2nd portal in the west of the heaven. And on that day the night amounts to 11 parts, and the day to 7 parts. 25. And the sun rises on that day from the 2nd portal and sets in the west in the 2nd portal, and returns to the east into the 1st portal for 31 mornings, and sets in the first portal in the west of the heaven. 26, and on that day the night becomes longer and amounts to the double of the day, and the night amounts exactly to 12 parts, and the day to 6. 27, and the sun has therewith traversed the divisions of his orbit, and turns again on those divisions of his orbit, and enters that portal 30 mornings, and sets also in the west opposite to it. And on that night has the night decreased in length by a 9th part, and the night has become 11 parts, and the day 7 parts. 29, and the sun has returned and entered into the second portal in the east, and returns on those his divisions of his orbit for 30 mornings, rising and setting. 30, and on that day the night decreases in length, and the night amounts to 10 parts, and the day to 8. 31, and on that day the sun rises from that portal and sets in the west, and returns to the east, and rises in the third portal for 31 mornings, and sets in the west of the heaven. On that day the night decreases and amounts to 9 parts, and the day to 9 parts, and the night is equal to the day, and the year is exactly as to its days, 364. And the length of the day and of the night, and the shortness of the day and of the night arise through the course of the sun. These distinctions are made. Literally, in parentheses here, they are separated. Parentheses end, it says in 34, so it comes that its course becomes daily longer, its course nightly shorter. 35, and this is the law and the course of the sun, and his return as often as he returns 60 times, and rises, i.e., the great luminary, which is named the sun, forever and ever. 36, and that which thus rises in the great luminary, and is so named according to its appearance, according as the Lord commanded. As he rises, so he sets, and decreases not, and rests not, but runs day and night, and his light is 7-fold brighter than that of the moon. But as regards size, they are both equal. Okay, and now we go to the moon. All right, not with NASA. I'm talking about here in chapter 73. And after this law, I saw another law dealing with the smaller luminary, which is named the moon, and her circumference is like the circumference of the heaven. That means it's circling east to west. And her chariot is which she rides is driven by the wind, and light is given to her in definite measure. And her rising and setting change every month, and her days are like the days of the sun. And when her light is uniform, i.e. full, it amounts to the 7th part of the light of the sun. And thus she rises, and her first phase in the east comes forth on the 30th morning. And on that day she becomes visible and constitutes for you the first phase of the moon on the 30th day, together with the sun in the porthole where the sun rises. 5. And the 1/2 of her goes forth by a 7th part, and her whole circumference is empty, without light, with the exception of 1/7 part of it, and the 14th part of her light. And when she receives 1/7 part of the half of her light amounts to 1/7 part and the half thereof, period. And she sets with the sun, and when the sun rises, the moon rises with him, and receives the half of 1 part of light. And in the night, in the beginning of her morning, in the commencement of the lunar day, the moon sets with the sun, and is visible that night with the 14 parts and the 1 and the half of 1 of them. In 8, and she rises on that day with exactly a 7th part, and comes forth and recedes from the rising of the sun, and in her remaining days she becomes bright in the remaining 13 parts. Okay, and on we go into chapter 74. And I saw another course, a law of her, and how according to that law she performs her monthly revolution. Now, the revolution part, that's a slam dunk. By that means that's absolutely true. And all these Uriel, the holy angel, who is the leader of them all, showed me, and their positions, and I wrote down their positions as he showed them to me, and I wrote down their months as they were, and the appearance of their lights, till 15 days were accomplished. In 3, in single seventh parts, she accomplishes all her light in the east, and in single 7th parts accomplishes all her darkness in the west. 4, it says, and in certain months she alters her settings, and in certain months she pursues her own particular course. 5, in 2 months the moon sets with the sun in those 2 middle portals. The 3rd and the 4th she goes forth for 7 days, and turns about and returns again through the porthole where the sun rises, and accomplishes all her light. And she recedes from the sun, and in 8 days enters the 6th portal, from which the sun goes forth. And when the sun goes forth from the 4th portal, she goes forth 7 days, until she goes forth from the 5th, and turns back again in 7 days into the 4th portal, and accomplishes all her light. And she recedes and enters into the 1st porthole in 8 days. In 8, and she returns again in 7 days into the 4th portal, from which the sun goes forth. 9, thus I saw their positions, how the moon rose and the sun set in those days. And if 5 years are added together, the sun has an overplus of 30 days, and all the days which occur to it for one of those 5 years, when they are full, amount to 364 days. In 11, and the overplus of the sun and the stars amounts to 6 days. In 5 years, 6 days every year come to 30 days. And the moon falls behind the sun and stars to the number of 30 days. 12. And the sun and the stars bring in all the years exactly, so that they do not advance or delay their position by a single day unto eternity, but complete the years with perfect justice in 364 days. In 3 years there are 1,092 days, and in 5 years 1,820 days, so that in 8 years there are 2,912 days. For the moon alone, the days amount in 3 years to 1,062 days, and in 5 years she falls 50 days behind, i.e., to the sum of 1,770. There is to be added 1,062 days. And in 5 years there are 1,770 days, so that for the moon, the days in 8 years amount to 2,832 days. 16. For in 8 years she falls behind to the amount of 80 days. All the days she falls behind in 8 years are 80. And the year is accurately completed in conformity with their world stations, and the stations of the sun, which rise from the portals through which the sun rises and sets 30 days. Now I'll tell you, these guys are really good, these engineers. They're going to break all this down for me. I appreciate that. This Bible study, folks, is for people that love to think. They love to think. This is not for everybody. We'll put it like that, obviously. But I want to go through some of this stuff about portals, about gates, stargates, they could be called. And I'll just give you one little one that stuck out to me here the other day, back in Psalms. So let's go to Psalms 24. Are you there? Now you see, not all these portals are the same. There are portals for lots of things, and even people with telescopes talk about these great, they talk about these big holes in the heavens, and they can't explain it, and la-di-da, but in all the different societies, they all believe in these gateways. And again, that's what the CERN Collider is doing. Now, that's exactly what they say. We're opening the gates. We're opening a gate. And even Hawkins, before he died, said they're trying to open a gateway to hell. And the man was in a wheelchair there. But the Bible's full of it. Okay? In fact, you take, in the occult, they look at, through their third eye, they look into the other dimension, and they'll see one of these portholes. And then they'll take it and build a shrine there. And many times it's like a arch, like say at the Dakota House where John Lennon was shot, right there in the gateway going into the Dakota House. You see, that represented one of the portholes in the other dimension. And I worked for one contractor who was total occultist. I was really young. And he would look into the other dimension. I didn't know what he was doing. Can you see it? Can you see it? I said, no, I'm used to a blueprint. But no, can you see it? Can you see it? And what he's doing is looking into the other dimension. So many times when there's a gate to a shrine, a town, there's another meaning to it in the spiritual world. So not all these portals are good, Many of them are evil, okay? And the occultist, what he does many times through ritual magic is tries to open the porthole so that he can communicate with the creatures from the other side. Now that's the occult. Now that I know about. That I do know about. But let's talk about this. I marked this here. And so here's a little description here in Psalms 24. It says here, a Psalm of David, of course, with a new paragraph mark. It says, "The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. For he hath founded it upon the seas, and established it upon the floods. Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord, and who shall stand in his holy place?" In 4 it says, "He that hath clean hands and a pure heart, who hath not lifted up his soul to vanity, nor sworn deceitfully." So that's your idolatry and your oath-taking right there in the Old English. "He shall receive the blessing from the Lord, and righteousness from the God of his salvation. This is the generation of them that seek him, that seek thy face, O Jacob. Shelah." 7, it says, "Lift up your heads, O ye gates, and be ye lift up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in." Notice the gates and notice the doors. Now, it ain't saying portal, but you get my drift. I mean, how long have we been saying St. Peter at the Golden Gate? What's that mean? Well, we're getting a new meaning to that. Or maybe it ain't a new meaning to you out there, folks. I'm just saying, for me, when I look at it in multi-layers, I realize that this isn't just one meaning here. In 8 it says, "Who is the King of glory? The Lord strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, O ye gates, even lift them up, ye everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in." Who is this King of glory? The Lord of hosts. He is the King of glory. Shelah. And of course, this is talking about Christ. But remember what Christ said there at the mountain. He told the apostles. He said, "The gates of hell will not prevail against my church." Okay? And notice here, it's been a while back here, they had the big rock concert, and it was done by these Satanists, and they say they opened a portal right there at the rock concert. People got killed through this force that came through this portal. Does everybody remember that? Everybody at the table here remembers that. So like I said, this isn't anything new, but we got to be thinking, and we got to be analyzing. And when there's something we don't know, and I'm not, hey, I enjoy it, but if there's something we don't know about, we don't have to make our mind up in 1 second. Many times that could be a mistake. Just reserve your judgment and watch closely and keep researching. Keep looking at the cream, because it'll come to the top. The truth will set us free, and it'll come to the top. So I hope you guys have had your thinking cap on here, and whatever you make of it, it's a wonderful read, and I'll let you know when my engineer man gets his chart done. I may even just put it online for everybody, flash it up there. If you notice, our emblem here is those firmaments on our design. And those are the firmaments of the earth, the hell down below, the surface of the earth, and the 3 heavens, and the North Star being the paradise, the throne of God. Bye-bye.